Welcome to another edition of the IPA Interview Series. My name is Kenny Olowin. I am excited to be sitting here with Polka Hall of Famer, Mr. Joe Zalewski. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great, Ken. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, and we're going to talk about you and your exciting life in polka music. Let's take the calendar and turn it back to, let's go back. I think a good place to start would be at the beginning.
At the beginning
Let's
is
go back
awesome.
to like
Yeah.
1978. I do believe the mid to late 70s.
Yeah, mid to late 70s. I was 14 years old. When I first started playing drums, I was in 8th grade. I was 13 years old. Now, I'll never forget, my mom, I'm the oldest of 5 boys, so had, 5 boys at home, and she always wanted one of us to, play drums. It was interesting, always, at Christmas time, there always would be a new drum set, and then, by New Year's it would be destroyed.
Now, did your parents play or anything?
They did not. No, neither of my parents played music, but my mom always wanted one of her boys to be a drummer. So one day I came home from school and I said, "Hey, Mom, I really want to start playing drums. I'm interested in playing rock and roll and what have you." And she's like, "Great. Well, we'll get you started with some drum lessons." And funniest thing, got home from school one day and she's like, "Okay, well, we're all set for your first drum lesson." And so we got in the car and drove down the street to on LaGrange Street in Toledo, Ohio, to Joseph's Accordion School. And I was like, "Mom, I said I want to play drums." And she's like, No, don't worry. He teaches, drums as well. Joseph's Accordion School, he teaches all the instruments. In fact, your brother's going to learn how to play accordion, and that was Jim, and John is going to learn how to play accordion, and your younger brothers, which were Jeff and Jerry, she got them started on trumpet and clarinet, and there we were. So I went in for my first lesson with Mr. Joseph, as we called him. And we sit down. I sit down on the drums. He comes in, sits down in his chair, and "So, Joe, nice to meet you. I understand you want to learn how to play drums." I'm like, "Yes, sir. I want to play drums." He's like, "What kind of music?" And I'm like, "Oh, I want to learn Bob Seger, and I want to learn Aerosmith, and I want to play rock and roll." And he's like, "Well, that's really great. We're going to start with a waltz," and it goes a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And honestly,
and you're going, "Oh, this isn't
I'm
what
like,
I
you
want
got
to
to
do."
be kidding me. That's not what I want to do. But hey, I'm getting drum lessons, so I'm going to roll with it. And it was really interesting at Joseph's Accordion School. He used to take the different students that played various instruments and put together these little bands. So. And we just would go out and, play these little gigs. It might be a communion party or, things like that. And we knew about 10 songs, and we just would play them over and over and over till the gig was over. And that was it.
Was this with your brothers or just other people in
Well,
the
it was,
music?
my brothers were involved for a little bit. My mom came up with the name, the Peanuts Polka Band. We did a few gigs, but and then my brothers quickly they didn't like lugging the accordions around, and my brother John switched over to playing 6-string guitar, and Jim never played another instrument. So but yeah, it was interesting because as he'd put together these groups, and we'd get out and get a little bit of experience and start playing that way. So that's kind of how I got my start playing, music, playing out in front of people. But it was really a few years later, after I had, taken lessons for a couple of years, that I got my first, real big break to play with a band that had a name, at least locally. It was Dale Zalewski and the Golden Eagles. And I remember, to this day, how I got the opportunity. We were at my babysitter's wedding. One of my babysitters got married. We were at the wedding. Her uncle was actually IPA Hall of Famer Chet Zablocki. Chet was inducted many years ago. I should know that off the top of my head, but it was probably in the mid '90s that Chet was inducted into the IPA Hall of Fame. But we sat at the same table together, and my mom was very proud, as most moms are, and basically, told Chet that I would play drums and I was interested in playing in a polka band. And so he announced it on his radio show. And next day, I got a couple of phone calls, and Dale Zalewski was one. That was a group I joined. But interestingly, another person that contacted me was Michael Talinsky. He was getting his own group going. Easy Chicago was the band, and he came to my house that same day, and we sat down and played a couple of tunes, and I could tell I didn't really have the beat that he was kind of looking for, and he's like, yeah, well, keep working on what you're doing, and maybe sometime down the road we can play together. And of course, the story there with Michael and myself, being with TPM. But it's kind of ironic that the first time that we met each other, and I kind of tried out with them, I didn't have the chops to get it done. But Dale Zalewski and the Golden Eagles, he was reforming his group. And he's like, hey, you got the passion for it, and you got enough skills that we can work with you. And we did. We spent 6 months or so before we played our first live gigs, and then I was off and running from there.
So was Michael with you at that time, or
no? He was not. No, he had his own group called Easy Chicago.
Okay, so
based out of Toledo, and he was the band leader. Michael and I got together, actually playing together for the first time with Barb Zalewski in Holy Toledo. In 1982. That's the first time that Michael and I actually shared the stage together. And then, of course, we were connected, all through the duration of Holy Toledo and the first, 17 years or so of TPM.
So you were with Barb for how long then? And then
So, I played with Dale until towards the end of 1980. I actually joined Dwayne Malinowski's Polka Jamboree when he was first starting his band. I played with him in 80 and 81. And somewhere along the way, early 81, he decided, to go with a different drummer. And he made a few changes in the group. And, the rest is history there. So I was kind of out of a job. I had left the Golden Eagles, started playing with Dwayne, and I went out to see Barb Zalewski in Holy Toledo at La Park nightclub. And they came on break, and Frankie Dromchek and Randy Kraski were in the band at the time. And, they came up and we started talking. I was, at the back of the nightclub, as it was at those days. I wasn't allowed to be at the bar, but I was at the... They had you have to go in the bar. Well, I was a senior in high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you go in the bar and then you pay the admission to get in the, kind of like the hall. But it was really open. If you were in the bar, you could hear the music. But if you were underage, you couldn't be in the bar. You had to be in the dance hall part of La Park nightclub. And they, asked me what I was doing, and I said, not much. And they said, well, would you like to play with the Holy Toledo Polka Stars? And I was like, well, yeah, I would love to do that. And he said, well, if you can learn to play bass in 3 months, you got a job. And
so you went from drums to bass right there.
I went from drums to bass in 1981. And every day for the last 3.5 months of my senior year of high school, as soon as school was over, I hightailed it down the street from school to Randy Kraski's house. And we would sit down and go through all the tunes in the book, and I had to chart out all the bass notes, and we would just, play through the 2 Bucks polka, the Red Shoes polka, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and we just worked, charted everything out, worked through the tunes. In June of 1981, I played my first gig with Holy Toledo Polka Stars. It was at Kennywood Park in Western PA.
In Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh area, and it was Barb Zalewski and Holy Toledo, along with Jimmy Weber and the Sounds.
Wow.
And that was my first.
That was quite a jump there.
That was quite a jump from just playing local, gigs, weddings, the bars in Toledo, to getting out on the road. And that summer of '81, we had a fairly decent schedule with Barb and Holy Toledo, and I got a chance to play Seven Springs for the first time. I had a chance to go out to the East Coast. Pulaski Park and Three Rivers was on the first, East Coast road trip that we ever did. And here we are in 2024, and I just played there a month ago. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So this was all before TPM, of course.
It was before TPM. TPM started in 1983. And that was when Barb Zalewski decided to retire from performing polka music and disbanded the Holy Toledo Polka Stars. And that night, Frankie Dromchek, Eddie Biegai, Mike Tolinsky, and myself all agreed that we want to keep playing together as a group, and we're going to start a new band. So we went out and got a couple of horn players that Michael had utilized in his group, before he joined up with Holy Toledo. And we started Toledo Polka Motion. The TPM moniker came along probably a year or two into it. All of a sudden, everybody was, TBC and TNT and PST and PTS and you name it. Everybody was going to the three-letter acronym, and we were like, oh, TPM, yeah, let's do it. And so we kind of flipped things over, probably 3-4 years into it before we started really latching on, and people started latching on to the TPM, moniker.
What was the mindset behind TPM? Because I remember that you were able to pull in a lot of younger people. I noticed the music becoming younger. You picked up little things like, covering Beatles songs like I'm a Loser and things like that. And the younger people started catching on. Was that something intentional that you did?
Well, yeah, I think it was. I mean, we had some very creative, innovative minds in the band. With Michael Tolinsky is really, an incredible, not only an incredible accordion player and an incredible bassist, on the left hand of the accordion, but really songwriting. A lot of the TPM hits were written by Michael. We all influenced the songs, but usually he had, he had a good idea of what he wanted and how he wanted the song to go, whether it was from the very first album, Going My Way. That was a Michael original. And I think us being younger, we tended to gravitate towards, what appeals to us, what changes can we make to the music, and how can we, bring new ideas. And, we just started doing that. And, some of the things that we tried,
caught on in the industry.
Well, it caught on, and a lot of people, emulated it or did similar type things with their arrangements, as the years went by. And I've had, many polka musicians, over the years, in conversations say, TPM really blazed the trail for, incorporating, whether it was, some, rock and roll fills or chord structures, the intro to Red Berries, the intro to Party All Night.
Who came up with the rap thing at the beginning of Red Berries?
Yeah, interesting. That was done, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the guys' names that actually tracked that for us. They were brothers. And Mike Tolinsky knew them. He used to work at a music store in the Toledo area. So, he had a lot of connections with local musicians of all different types of genres. And Michael brought the idea to us. We were, trying to figure something out. We were kind of doing it organically, right? Trying to get a different type of rhythm. And he had the idea, and he talked to these guys and kind of explained to them what he was thinking, and they did the whole thing. And then he, brought it into us and said, okay, well, let's see if we can use this to start the song. And it was like, wow.
It was another innovative thing because
Oh,
people
yeah.
weren't expecting that from
Oh,
a polka
completely
song.
not. Yeah.
And it caught on so well. I mean, to this day, I get so many requests for Red Berries.
Yeah. Yeah, it was that was a game changer. That whole album, the Red Berries Grand Illusion recording was really a game changer for the band. That's when things just kind of really skyrocketed for us with the USPA, all the awards. Eddie got Male Vocalist of the Year. We got Band of the Year. We had the Grammy nomination. That was really the probably the most influential recording that we did. And there was some really great recordings that followed, with different types of ideas to draw in the younger crowds. The Party All Night album, I'll never forget, another great story there. So we, did Party All Night, which, on the album starts out with this, 6-string guitar, and it has a little 50s, 60s, rock and roll feel to it. And, when we first started playing that song live, nobody was dancing. Everybody was kind of looking like, what the heck are these guys doing? And it took several times through it to get people to, start to get into it. But once it caught on, it was a fantastic, crowd energizing song that we did. But my favorite story about that song is, that was right when we first started selling CDs. In fact, I think Party All Night was actually the very first album that we did that came out on CD and did not come out on vinyl. The last vinyl one was Feel the Motion. The first CD was Party All Night, but I'll never forget, we played a weekend, sold a bunch of CDs, and I get home, and it was probably, it was probably about a week later or so, and I get a package in the mail, and I open up, the package, and it's got this little letter in there, and it was from a lady, and she said, "I'm very disappointed. I was out to see your polka band, and I really liked the music, and I asked the person that was selling CDs, what's the best one, and I bought this CD, and this is not polkas, this is rock and roll, and I want my money back." And I was like, wow. And she left her, her name and address and phone number and everything like that. So I gave her a call, and I said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry that you're disappointed in our music." She's like, "Well, that's rock and roll and blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Ma'am, did you listen to anything other than the beginning of the first song?" She said, "No, I didn't need to listen to it. As soon as I put it on, I knew it was rock and roll." And, I tried to convince her, and I said, "Listen, I'm gonna send this back to you, but I'm also gonna send you your money back as well." And so I sent the CD back to her, and I sent the money, and I never heard from the person again. It was a bizarre thing, but it was just interesting, the take on it, but once that caught on, and the Party All Night album did really, really well for us. I mean, as far as that was right at the time, we were just on this trajectory up in the industry. We had the Grammy nomination. Every one of us quit our regular daytime jobs. We were doing music full time as a career at that point in time. Every guy in the band, quit their jobs, and we went on the road full time. And that 92, 93, 94 time frame, we did 200 plus jobs every single year for about, 3 year, little over a 3 year stretch. And then, guys started, getting married and having kids, and just kind of decided that, hey, as good as we're doing, it's just not there to be able to play music full time and support a family. So that's when we kind of, dialed things back from a schedule perspective, and then changes started to happen in the band as.
So that was the original band. Was your members were
Well, it wasn't
for
actually the original band. It was the group that really put TPM on the map, and that was Andy Pavlak on trumpet, saxophone, vocals, Dave Kish on trumpet and vocals, Eddie Biegai vocals, concertina, accordion, Mike Talinsky vocals, accordion, and bass, and myself on drums. So, and that was that group. We were together basically all of '88 through early '94 or mid '94. I think Andy was the first one to leave the band at that time due to getting a new job and just got married and what have you. And that first change happened, and it was Ted Pethick came in on trumpet.
I remember that, yeah.
And then, then within a year or so of Andy leaving the band, Eddie decided that, he wanted to do his own thing. And, he left the band and started Crusade. And then we brought in Ted Lang at that time. Dave was still in the band, so, it was the five of us. And then, things started to, change from there. Andy actually came back with us 96, 97, 90, into 98. He, came back, and he was on the Holy Toledo Live album. Steve Zilka also came back. He was one of the original horn players in '83, played a couple years, and he came back in the mid 90s there, and he was on that Holy Toledo Live album. But right after the '97 season, both Andy and Steve decided that they didn't want to travel and do what we were doing, and then that's when we brought in Eddie Shevitz, IPA Hall of Famer Eddie Shevitz, and Jeff Malechko.
So that was quite a run for you there. That was really good. And then Jeff joined the band. I remember that, and what progressed from there? '98,
and then the band at that point it was Eddie Shevitz, Jeff Malechko, Mike Talinsky, Ted Lang, and myself, and we recorded the album No Illusion. And then somewhere in that time frame, Michael, decided that he didn't want to be out on the road anymore, and he was taking a different job and stuff like that. And he left the group, and we brought in Eric Bogdan, and then we did the Timeless recording with that group. And then Eric had some issues with his work, common theme throughout, right? As we're trying to play music and work full-time jobs, sometimes
it's a hard thing to do.
It's a very hard thing to do, and you have to,
especially when you have young families,
newly married, new job, just finishing college, that type of stuff. So then, just to kind of finish things out from there. So Eric left the band, and we brought in Matt Rosinski, and that's when we did the Beat Goes On recording. We did the Welcome to Collinwood movie.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
that's a real treat right there.
Yeah, we can talk about
that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. That was a great time. That was all during the Beat Goes On time frame. And, within about a year or so of that now, Ted had been in the band 7.5 years or what have you. He had decided to, make some changes, had things going on with work, what have you. Again, common story. He left the band. We brought in Jimmy Kay. Matt, at the time that Matt Rosinski joined us, he was 15 years old. He was a sophomore in high school.
Yes.
Yeah, he lived at my house for, the summer of, I don't even remember if it was summer of 2000, 2001, something like that. But 9/11 happened, and he really was affected by that. Not to go down that whole road, but he didn't feel comfortable flying anymore. And with him being from Massachusetts and the band is in Toledo, I mean, we gotta get there somehow. So at that point, we brought Jack Beachley into the band. So then last couple years of TPM was Jimmy Kay on accordion and Jack Beachley, Jeff, Eddie and myself, and we took it, to the end, disbanded in 2004. And that was, pretty much the end of the TPM era after 21 years.
So let's back up a little bit because
Sure.
I'd like to talk about Welcome to Collinwood. I found out about it at Holy Toledo Polka Days when you were all excited about this new movie.
Joe and Anthony Russo were the directors of the movie.
Right.
They were Cleveland natives, and they had this idea for the movie, and they wanted to have a polka band because, being from Cleveland and the neighborhoods that they grew up in, a lot of polka music and what have you. So they were in town scouting locations and different things like that, and they had heard that there was a dance. It was actually at the Hillside Party Center.
Okay.
And Stash Belunda and the Average Polka Band was playing at the event. And, Joe and Anthony came in and they paid the admission and they went over by the bar and they were just kind of observing what was going on and, checking things out. And our good friend John Haslow,
Okay.
at polkas, everybody knows everybody. So when somebody new comes in the building, it's like, hey, who's that?
Who's these
Let's
guys?
figure out
Yeah.
who these guys are. So John went over and started talking to them. They gave him the story, what they were doing, scouting and doing a movie and what have you. And they're like, these guys, the sound is pretty good, but they're a little bit older than what we're, kind of looking for. We're looking for, more of a younger polka band. And John Haslow says, hey, I got the perfect band for you, TPM. You got to get TPM. And they're like, well, who's TPM? What, how do I hear? He's like, and John told me this story. He was very excited. Called me the next morning, almost first thing in the morning. He said, hey, Joe, how'd you like to be in a Hollywood movie? And I'm like, I would love to. And he's like, well, here's the guys, and so he hooked me up and I made the call to the Russos and their agent actually, returned the call, and then we met with them in Cleveland and what have you. But so to finish the story on John, he says, well, they're like, well, how can we hear this TPM group? And he's like, well, I got their CDs out in my truck. Let me run out and get you. So he ran out and he grabbed the Timeless CD. And of course, he brought it in. He's like, here, you can have this, CD. And they happened to open it up. Well, the picture on the inside of the CD cover was taken when we played for Gene Swick, IPA Hall of Famer Gene Swick out in California. Mm-hmm. And he took us out, to Universal Studios and all this and that. Well, there's a spot where we took a picture with the Hollywood sign behind the band, and we used that on that CD. Mm-hmm. So they open this up and they go, Hollywood. Wow, this must be meant to be. We will, and they told John, he says, we will contact them on Monday. And they exchanged information, and that's kind of how that happened. So then, the Russos were the producers, but, they were looking for, people that knew how to dance the polka and, just people to be part of extras for the movie and what have you. And so I said, we can get people for you. There's no question we can get people for you.
No doubt about that.
So what do we need to do? And he's like, well, we've got these forms and, all this stuff. And they're like, well, how are you going to pull this off? I said, well, I'm having my Holy Toledo Polka Days coming up here in 4 weeks. I said, we'll publicize it, we'll promote it there, and I will get, how many people do you want? Well, we want about 150. I said, I will get you 150 plus names. And that's what we did. We set up, a little room at Holy Toledo, off the beaten path. We had the applications where everybody, and that's how you got in the movie, and my family, my brother-in-law Bobby, and everybody that came out from the Cleveland area, from Pittsburgh, from Toledo. And it was a great experience for everybody. I mean, you got some film time.
It was wonderful.
How was your experience?
My experience was, I did this floor sweeping in the
You
gym.
did. I remember the janitor. But that's why we call you sweeping guy.
Yeah, that's right. To this day, I tell people that it wasn't a blockbuster movie. no matter how you spin it, but it was a good movie. It's funny, and to this day, I
Yeah.
watch it every once in a while.
Yeah.
I'll get it out and watch
Yeah.
it. It's a great movie. Some great
Yeah.
Hollywood stars in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, and boy, we just had a great time, with that. From not only filming the movie and getting to know, the Russos and the actors, Sam Rockwell and Jennifer Esposito, William H. Macy, and that. Eddie Shevitz and myself, we had the opportunity to go to the con. Well, actually, the whole band had the opportunity, but Eddie and I were the only ones that, were able to work it out to make ourselves available to go to the Cannes Film Festival, which
That's
is
right, I
in
remember you
France.
went out
And
there, yeah.
we went out for the original premiere, and they treated us just like we were the stars of the movie. I mean, we were part of the entourage. They did interviews and all this kind of stuff. They did the premiere at a theater. We were recognized, by Joe and Anthony Russo, and they had the credits in the movie, and ended up with the songs on the soundtrack and all that. And it was just one of the most cool experiences that I've been a part of in my entire career. And it's not the traditional polka festival that we play, but it was just so unique to be part of that.
It was. I know
incredible.
what you're talking about. I was there, and everything was Hollywood. It was in Cleveland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was really
Even the food, they brought in some
Yeah,
great food.
it was a fantastic week. I loved every minute of it, and to this day, I still I have some connections, through Facebook and what have you, with some of the folks that were, involved in the movies, and the Russo brothers have gone on to do, Captain America and all the I can't think of the movie series. I can't. I'd have to
No,
look
but
it up.
Collinwood was a funny movie.
Yeah.
I still think it was. It's a good movie. You start watching it, you
Yeah.
can't stop. It's
Yeah.
a good movie.
Yeah.
So okay, so that was one of your big experiences during your career. Do you have anything that could top that? Something that stands out in your mind.
Well, yeah, I
As far
can
as
tell
maybe
you.
one of your favorite places to play, or something that happened at a polka dance.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. The Grammy nomination and the whole Grammy experience was absolutely incredible. And at the time, when it happened, which was for our recording in 1990, which was the Grand Illusion. Making the trip out to the Grammys, doing all the interviews, the radio shows. The Howard Stern show. We were on they had every morning show from the top 25 markets, Detroit, Chicago, New York, Seattle, San Francisco, LA. All the top morning shows were in New York. And they had a day where they would pre-recorded all these interviews, on Grammy week, and the opportunity to take our music and just be a part of that it was fantastic. I can't thank Ron Schaefer and WRS Records, really made that happen. The opportunity, but then going to the Grammys and sitting there and. They go, and the nominees are, and even though we were not fortunate enough to win it, I've always said the nomination was as good as getting the award, because
You got that right.
we were able to carry, to this day,
You can
people
still carry
ask
that?
me about
Yep.
the Grammy nomination, and it's one of my favorite things when I meet new people, especially like in my job, my day job. And they, we start talking about what do you do, and we start getting into the music and stuff. And of course, everybody that I work with, knows the story, the Grammys, the movies, and they're all like, "Oh my God, he's got a Grammy!" And And my favorite thing to do is I'll do an internet search. I'll put my name in, and one of the top results is my own page. And all the guys have this, but my own page on Grammy.com that says Joe Zalewski, 1 Grammy nomination, has all the information, and it's a top. When I do that, with my clients, and they're just like, "Holy cow, why are you selling software?" I said, "Well, because that we learned that unfortunately, the economics of polka music does not allow you to do that full time for most of us, and it's just not enough there financially to be able to raise a family, support a family, and what have you. So we have to do this as a passion. It's still a business. It's a business, but it just it can't dominate the life. It has to be part of the life work balance. And most all of us in the industry have to work a 9-to-5 job to be able to make the weekends work with the band.
So let's back up a little bit.
Sure.
Talked about Jeff Malechko joining the band and your connection with Jeff, and of course, when TPM came to an end, I was at that with tears in my eyes.
Holy Toledo, 2004.
Very emotional moment. I remember when you did the last song, The Beat Goes On, and each member left the stage one at a time.
Yeah.
And you were the last one on the drums. And people were crying.
I was crying.
It was crazy.
The place was flooded with tears.
And
it was great.
And your connection with Jeff had a band called the Dynabrass.
Right.
And you want to take it from there?
Sure. So we disbanded TPM in 2004. 2010 we were asked to do a reunion, and we did the Eddie, Jeff, Ted Lang, Jack Beachley, and myself. We did a TPM reunion on a cruise with it was Polka Family, John Gutta. John Gutta was kind of heading up the the cruise itself. Ted and Molly with Squeezebox also played on the cruise, and so we did that.
So he joining you, and then he left the Dynabrass, but they kind of disbanded for a while, right? Or
right, yeah. So yeah, it was 95, 96, somewhere in that area that the original first run of the Dynabrass ended. In 98, as I mentioned, after we did the Holy Toledo Live, Andy and Steve decided that they were done. They were going to finish out the year, and it was time to look for some new horn players. That's when I brought in Eddie and Jeff. And Jeff was not playing at the time. Dynabrass had been done for a couple of years, and he stepped in, and we had a good 7-year run to the end of the band. And then as soon as TPM ended, Jeff restarted Dynabrass. Paul Crivey, Paul Goodman, Kurt Majewski, Eric Sanderson, Jeff, and Bob Nasons. And then in 2005 they came out with Unfinished Business and what have you. Well, in 2011, I'll never forget, we were both my kids are born 3 days apart in February, and we were out celebrating both their birthdays, and the cousins were there, and Holly was there, and Brian and Dan, Bobby Earl's family, and we're at the bar and having pizza and beer and stuff, and started talking about what polka dances were coming up and what have you. And Dynabrass was scheduled to play for it was either TAPS or IMA, and they're like, oh yeah, Kurt's leaving the band and Jeff doesn't have a bass player, and my kids are like, oh Dad, you got to tell Jeff you want to play bass. And I'm like, I haven't.
Now, you hadn't played bass.
I hadn't played bass in 25 years.
Yeah, because you were
because when I started with TPM, when I finished with Barb Zielinski, I was playing bass. Started with TPM, I was on bass. Frankie Dromchek was on drums. And that lasted, a couple of years, and somewhere probably in 85, middle of 85, end of 85, Frankie left the band, and it happened, on a weekend, and it's like, well, what are we going to do? We got 2 more gigs to play, one of those situations. And so we, Michael Talinsky was like, hey, I'll play the bass on the accordion and you play drums. And that was the quick fix. And so we played the next 2 gigs on the weekend. We're like, hey, this is sounding pretty good. Let's, we should keep it this way. We got one less guy to pay and, and then, things, transcended from there. But, getting back to, the Dynabrass thing. So I had not played bass, actively in the band since 1985. So we're in 2011. There were a few albums that we did with TPM that I played drums and bass. Join the Fun, the Polka Heaven 87, the TGIF recording. I think it was right around Grand Illusion is when basically Michael took over playing bass on the recordings full time, because I wasn't playing it on a regular basis. The songs were becoming more complicated, and he was a hell of a bass player. So why have me do it when he can do a better job on the left hand of the accordion than I can do on the bass guitar? And that was really the sound of the band at that point. So I stopped playing. So 2011, fast forward, and my kids they're just riding me at this birthday party, and they're like, we dare you, and the cousins are joining in. I'm like, all right, you're gonna dare me, then I'm calling Jeff when I get home. And I did. We got home from the thing, and I went up to my office, and I'm like, all right, and I dialed up Jeff's number, and fortunately he was home, and the conversation was pretty simple. Hey, I heard Kurt's leaving the band. What are you doing for a bass player? He says, I don't know. You want to play bass? And I said, well, I might want to play bass. He's like, well, if you want to play bass, you got a job, And I'm like,
just like that?
Just like that. And I'm like, all right, well, let me get the books and let me start working on it. He's like, well, Kurt's pretty much done. And, we've got a job at the end of, we start playing our season at the end of March. And this is like, 3 weeks to get ready and learn the whole book.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, God, here we go again. But, yeah, so that's kind of how that all came together. And, it was just fantastic to get back to playing music and playing the bass guitar. I always loved playing the bass. People have asked me many times, do you prefer playing drums or bass? And I gotta say, I prefer playing bass hands down.
Yeah.
I really do. I just think it's a cool instrument. I love, being able to lock in with the drums. And I've been fortunate, to play with a couple of, 3 or 4 excellent drummers. Aaron Slavinsky, when I first joined Dynabrass, and then of course my son AJ joined Dynabrass in 2015, and we played together for 7 years. And then now, playing along with Paul Crivey, I mean, he's made me a better player. These last couple of years. And it's interesting. And Michael Talinsky and I kind of had the same thing when I was playing drums. You just kind of lock in with your partner in the rhythm section, and you just kind of know where you're going. You don't even, a lot of times have to talk about, maybe when you're first working out a tune or what have you, but it becomes automatic. I can just, when I'm playing bass, and it was the same way when I was playing drums with Michael, I could just feel where he was going, he could feel where I was going, and it was just locked in. And I had that with AJ, and I really have that with, with Paul Crivey right now. It's just incredible, from a musical perspective, to be able to play with, guys that are that talented. Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. So then Jeff became ill.
Yep.
Had a stroke. And you jumped in.
I did. We've talked about it many times. I talked about it with his parents, at the time. If it were the other way around, he would have done the same thing.
I don't doubt that for a minute. And you were there for him still to this day.
Well, yeah, to this day, we still, and that was really, his parents, his mom especially, was, he needs something to fight back for. I mean, his stroke, not to get into all of his health, but it was very, very serious.
I do remember that.
I mean, it was, no kidding, life or death, scenario. And they, knew how strong he was, of an individual. And his parents, his mom especially, wanted the band to be there for him, to give him hope, to bring him back
something to come
life.
back to.
Yeah, to bring him back. And, the goal from day one was, keep the Dynabrass relevant so that when Jeff is ready to get back to playing music, he can just step right in and go. And that's still the mission of the band. We do try to include him, especially when he attends events that we're playing, and bring him up. He does as much as he can do, but and the whole mission of the band, keep the band relevant. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're recording and we got hit songs and we're getting, USPA awards and IPA awards, and all this stuff is going on. And I'm just very proud of all the guys that have been part of the Dynabrass, especially since Jeff had his stroke. The team that that we've had over the years, everybody has given their best. During their time in the group, we've made adjustments. We've had some folks come and go, as happens in the music industry, but we've been able to stay true to the Dynabrass legacy, to Jeff's legacy, to play his music, play his originals, and take the band forward at the same time and create a new identity, for the band, and kind of merge that all together. And, Ken, I will tell you that I don't know that I'm inducted into the Hall of Fame without the Dynabrass experience. If my career musically just ended with TPM and I stepped away and I didn't get back in, and especially what has transpired since I took over the band at the end of 2015. Hard to believe, 9 years now, and funny, I never want to be a band leader again. I think I told you that how many times, right? And then this happens and here I am. But I'm not in the Hall of Fame if it's not for that experience of the whole transition of the Dynabrass, and me, taking over the leadership and, driving the band forward. I think that part of my career is as important as the TPM years. Looking back at it now, TPM 83 to 2004, so 21 years there. Dynabrass now, 2011 through we're 2024, so 13. This is the 14th year in the band and 9 years as the band leader. We're getting close to almost being 50-50 here.
Wow.
And, I really cherish. I don't wish, obviously, what happened to Jeff on anybody.
Oh, okay.
But
you stepped
life
up.
happens for a reason. Things happen in life, for a reason. And for whatever reason, it was meant for this to happen. Jeff's mom has told me that, multiple times. And, Jeff and I have talked about it. And, he's 100%, behind what we're doing as a group. He's thankful for, what we've been able to carry on, in his name and his legacy. And still, be able to, go forward and do our own thing at the same time. It's been a very unique part of, everybody's got, their story and what have you. But when I look back on it, it's mind-boggling how everything happened, how it all fell together.
Well, you've worked hard at it. I've been watching you for all these years. We've been together for many years, and I don't know of anybody that is more dedicated and hardworking as you in the polka industry.
Thank you.
And even, like with Big Dan's party, you kind of course, when COVID came, that kind of fizzled out.
Yeah.
But so many things you've done for the industry. And you're not finished yet.
Heck no.
And
Plenty of
we're
gas
ready
in
to
the
go.
tank.
So, and you've just received the Lifetime Achievement Award too.
Yes, for the USPA. That was earlier this year. It's been a heck of a year here, 2024, for me personally, from a musical career perspective. To have the USPA honor me with the Lifetime Achievement Award, and now the IPA Polka Music Hall of Fame.
How many awards? I mean, I don't know if you've received so many awards. Any idea of maybe just the big ones?
Well, I mean, that's the thing about it, Ken, is that I didn't do any of this on my own. It's always been a team, whether it was the TPM team with Eddie, Dave, Michael, Andy, or Eddie, Jeff, Ted, Matt Rosinski, or the Dynabrass, whether it's, with Dale Kivinen or, the group that we have now with Chase Machkevich doing the lead vocals. It's always been, for me, it's always been about the team. We've accomplished that whole resume of all these awards. Is the Lifetime Achievement in the IPA Hall of Fame, yes, that's in my name, but I share that with, every musician that I've ever worked with. It's always been a team for me. One of the things I'm most proud of, thinking back about it, you realize that I am from TPM, I am the fourth member of TPM to be inducted into the Polka Music Hall of Fame.
Oh, really? I did not know that. That's great.
Eddie Shevitz,
Yeah.
2005. Eddie Biegai, I think it was 2014. Ted Lang, 2019. All,
From TPM.
guys that were instrumental throughout, the legacy of TPM, right? TPM alumni, whatever you call it. So I'm now the fourth member of, the TPM alumni to get elected into the Polka Music Hall of Fame. And I think that speaks a lot about, what we did together as a group, that so many of us individually have gotten recognized, and that's part of each and every one of their career. Obviously, Eddie's had his own group. Ted's done his own thing, since, leaving TPM. Eddie Shevitz was, legendary before he joined us and legendary after he joined us.
But he was part of it.
But he was part of the, TPM legacy for, 7 or 8 years. So that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, is that as a team, we've been successful, and that, individuals on those respective teams, whether it was TPM or Dynabrass, have also had the opportunity to be recognized individually, not only with the Hall of Fame, but, some of the awards that the band had, Eddie Biegai, Vocalist of the Year, Jeff Malechko, Vocalist of the Year with, Dynabrass, USPA, Dale Kivinen was nominated for Male Vocalist of the Year, when he was with Dynabrass. So there have been some individual accolades, but it's really been, more about the team.
The team effort.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe some fun stuff here. Over the years, I'm sure there have been little incidents or wacky things that have happened. What are some of your favorite, maybe even embarrassing things that have happened?
Wow. With the wackiest and some of the most memorable things, I probably can't share.
Yeah, I know some of those.
No, seriously. Boy, I saw that question on the list, and I was, trying to, think
of something that
think of something, some scenario that was just, an incredible experience. And we covered some of it.
Yeah.
Most memorable band stories, the filming of the Welcome to Collinwood movie, the whole experience of the Grammys and, attending that. Receiving the USPA awards for the very first time in 1989. That was huge. Recording for the very first time at Peppermint Studios, and even to this day, recording at Peppermint Studios. This last session that we did with the Dynabrass, the 10 and 5, was one of the most enjoyable, efficient, effective, studio sessions I've ever been involved with. Everything just fell into place, and that type of thing. There were some things that that we that I thought about, wacky things. We always with TPM and even with Dynabrass, we try to have fun. It's a lot about fun. Our second album for TPM, our second full album, was called Join the Fun, and we had an original song that I kind of had written along with Mike Tolinsky. And it was his idea to throw that line in there, bring your dog. And, really the message was bring everybody. We want to have fun. This is a family music. Let's get together. So we did the album cover. We did the pictures at the DC Ranch. We had all these stuffed animals, these little dog animals. And they wouldn't let us bring real dogs to the dance. We tried to say, bring your dog to the dance. That didn't fly at the DC Ranch. We probably should have done that at a outside festival under the tent or something. But that was one of those wacky ideas, and people just caught on to that. And we would play jobs or whatever, and every once in a while people would show up with their dogs. And it's like,
bring your dog.
Hey, we brought our dog. But there's so many memories. Being on the road. The breakdown stories. Holy cow! Let me tell you.
Well, that's another one there. You're on the road so much, and
driving off the road a couple. I won't name any of the guys in the band that took the vehicle, van and trailer, off the off the off ramp, down the grass, up the side, and back onto the highway, and in the middle of the night. I'm not going to name any names, but yeah, there were some scary moments out there on the road. And
you do. I mean, you're traveling all those miles.
Well, yeah, especially back in the day when the travel was just crazy, and you're trying to cram in 4 or 5 jobs a week, and you're basically, sleeping during the daytime, playing, and then driving. And there were definitely some. Close calls and breakdowns. With Jeff, one of my funniest stories. He got a new used motorhome. This was back in like 2014, 2015, and we were playing in Minnesota. And he picked the thing up like on a Thursday, and then we're leaving on a Friday. Well, we left out of Michigan. We got into Wisconsin, blew a tire. All right, changed the tire. About 2 more hours down the road, blew another tire. 2 more hours down the road, blew a third tire. We never even made it to the Minnesota line and had blown 4 tires, and were sitting roadside and missed a job because we couldn't get all the way to Minneapolis because we kept blowing the tires, and every time we did, we had to have like a trucking, because those motorhomes are so big, right? And then on the way back, honest to God, Ken, on the way back, so we played the 2 days in Wisconsin, kind of turned the thing around, played the 2 gigs. We're on our way home, blew 2 more tires, and blew the fender off the trailer. And this all happened in a span of 48 hours, and it's like, you can't make this stuff up.
Wow.
Funny stuff. But so much. One of the things that is memorable, really memorable to me, is just all the people that I've met over the years, and people that to this day remember, little stories. You stayed at our house. You you played this place, your daughter's, talking about the first time that TPM came to Erie and, different
For the
things like
wedding
that.
of my daughter.
Well,
There's
and
another
there's
story.
another good story. And what did you learn from that? Never hire a band without a contract. And who the hell starts a wedding at 3 p.m? It shouldn't be any earlier than 7. That's all I got to say.
Going forward with the Dynabrass. Now,
Yeah.
you just completed 10 and 5, which I am it's just, like you said, it all came together so
Yeah.
nicely. I was involved with not anything special, but you kept me apprised of what was going on during the recordings and everything, and I just really think it was a great project. Are you planning something now for this, say,
Yes.
25?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're going to continue to do studio recordings. We're planning to go in January. We'll do another 5 or 6 tunes. Currently working on it, and yeah, I mean that's just kind of where we are with recorded music, at least from my perspective at this point in time. The media platform is online streaming, and it just really doesn't make any sense to try to knock out 15 or 20 songs. There's just no way to recoup the expenses and what have you, and making music has
This is
become
really a tough business.
It is.
It
Really
you're not going
is.
to get rich. You're not
And
going
it's
to make
not.
money.
It's just not in polkas. I mean,
it's
go to
everywhere.
Target, go to the mall, go. You can't even find CDs anymore.
Yeah,
Nobody makes them. You say CD, and the generation today look at you like, what are you talking about? Everything is streamed, and you have to have so many streams to produce the revenue. We just don't have the listenership, that other genres do that are really, doing very well with the streaming music. But yeah, we're going full force, with the Dynabrass.
Not backing off.
Nope.
Full force. That's
Plenty of gas left in the tank, and as long as I can, be involved and be at the forefront of the polka music industry, I want to continue to do my part and be a part of it, whether it's playing or promoting.
During this whole process of what we've talked about, you created your own festival called Holy Toledo Polka Days.
Yep.
How did that originate, and it's still going strong?
Oh well, that's a great story. So going back to the early '90s when we got the Grammy nomination and we decided that we wanted to do the music full time as a career. I had some conversations with Eddie Blazonczyk Sr. and we sat down and talked multiple times, and I'll just never forget. Eddie said, "Joe, if you want to make it in this business, you got to put some skin in the game." And what he meant by that is not only do you have to, play the music and use your talents to, bring the music alive on stage, but you need to be an ambassador for polka music. You need to promote it. You need to get involved, run events, help move the music and the industry forward. And I always took that to heart. And when I was telling Eddie, I said, we're thinking about going on the road, full time and what have you. I'm like, how do you run these festivals like Seven Springs or Bel Air Days? And Eddie sat down with me and just laid it all out. Here's the things you need to negotiate with the venue, with the hotel, and make sure that you get a little bit of a commission on the rooms, and you got to hire the bands, and how to put together the right schedule, and who's hot, and who has good followings, and different things like that. And he just kind of laid it all out for me to help me get started with Holy Toledo Polka Days. And I followed his formula, and to this day I still follow that and original formula that that he gave me. And the other thing that Eddie really instilled in me is get to know the people that support you support the band, support your music, do whatever you can to get to know them on a personal level. Learn their names, ask them their names, try to remember them, and acknowledge them when you see them. And that's one of the things that's so great, I think, about the polka music industry and what we do. And it's not only the camaraderie amongst musicians on the road, as you know, we all play a lot of the same events and we all have known each other for years and years, but it's connecting with the people that love the music and getting to know them at a personal level, and being able to walk into a place like the IPA convention and you can't even get to the front desk to check in without saying hi to 10 or 15 people that you know and you have known for years and years. And I just can't think of a better way to, be an ambassador of the music than to embrace and acknowledge the people that support it. I mean, it made so much sense to me when Eddie laid that out, and I've tried to do that, ever since.
Well, you've done a successful job. Obviously, it's still going. We got I just noticed that you have a schedule coming up for.
That's right. We're hitting it hard right away. Ready to go for 2025, and I've negotiated with the hotel to keep it through 27. I have agreements in place. So, I had said earlier, as long as I'm able. I have the energy, I have the passion. It's what I want to do, and I want to be part of leading the polka industry and continuing to lead it into the future.
Oh,
we need a younger generation behind my generation and the generation that's behind us. We need more youth in the music industry, and I would like to see more of the younger musicians get involved, whether it's get involved with the IPA or the USPA or your local clubs, or try to promote an event on your own, that type of thing. I think that we need more ambassadors for polka music to carry this into the future. I really believe that, and I think we've got a good core of younger musicians that are currently performing, but that's not enough.
Right.
Things have got to change for this to continue and go forward.
I guess all we can do is work toward that end.
That's all we can do. Everybody do their part, and together we can make it happen.
The music itself is a blessing to this world, I believe. This is the type of music that you can go and forget about all of the things that are going on in this world and have a really good time on a weekend, or a polka dance. It's so uplifting, and you're such a big part of that now. You are a polka leader. And I'm proud to have you as a friend.
Thank you, Ken.
And I'm so happy. Congratulations to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm thrilled, humbled, excited, nervous, and everything that goes along with that. Carrying that banner of the Polka Music Hall of Fame. Forever into the future, for the rest of my career. Something I'm absolutely proud of, and would like to sincerely say thank you to everybody that has contributed to my journey. It's been wonderful, and it continues to be wonderful, and I love every minute of it, and I look forward to when's the next time. Let's go.
Nobody works harder at it than you do, and I know that for a fact. Your whole life is polka. Who was your polka hero?
Oh, other than you, right. Well, Eddie B, for sure. Not only from a musical perspective, he was just larger than life.
Oh, no doubt about that.
But I know that he helped a lot of guys in the industry. He helped a lot of people.
Yes, he did.
He was a true ambassador, and to just be able to, follow his lead on that, and now be at the forefront and being able to share that knowledge and wisdom with the younger generation of polka musicians. It's a gift. It really is. And he was one of a kind.
Absolutely,
yeah.
an amazing person going down. I remember walking with him through the halls at Seven Springs, and he couldn't get every 2 feet.
Yeah.
He would see some that he remembered. He remembered their names.
Right.
It was an amazing thing.
Yep. Yeah. Other than that, another one that was very influential to me was Jimmy Weber and the Sounds. I mean, the
Right.
group, the Sounds. We talked about it earlier in the interview. My first road job ever, with Holy Toledo playing bass was, at Kennywood Park, and Jimmy Weber and the Sounds were part of that event. And I just always admired the tightness of the band, the originality, how they put, their own influence or twist or their own ideas into the music, that we all love, and always wanted to emulate, Jimmy Weber and the Sounds, Eddie B. and Jimmy Weber and the Sounds. I would say those are the two for me, top two.
So we've talked a lot about your journey from the beginning right up to the present. And I was wondering, back in the beginning, what was your first recording?
Well, the first recording was actually a 45. So we released 2 songs, Marching to Warsaw, polka, and White Table, polka. And we recorded it at Squire Studios in Buffalo, New York on Gen Records. Do you have any idea who the owner of Gen Records was, or the producer for Gen Records?
I have
Any
no idea.
Scrubby.
Wow.
It was
Really?
actually Scrubby and Nigel. I'm not sure. I know that they released a couple of records, only just a couple of records. We were one of the only ones that they did. It was not, it didn't last very long, but Scrubby was the producer of the very first TPM recording, Scrubby and Nigel.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I had never heard of Gen Records. Cool.
You can't find it anywhere.
You've got a copy.
I do have a copy, but you can't have it because I only have one.